Hi dear all, welcome to this third video of a series of more than 20 I will post on Power Automate. I'm Yvon Donko, Senior Consultant at CAM Asset Consulting. We are specialized in Microsoft technologies, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, and so on. So in my first video, I showed you how to create a custom connector from scratch for Zoom. And in the second video, I showed you how to create this Zoom meeting automatically from Dynamics 365. In this video, I will show you how to retrieve all registrants to this Zoom meeting directly within Dynamics 365 by using another action of my custom connector viewed in the first video. So the scenario is simple. When I click on the record, under the Zoom registrant, I should be able to get all people who have registered to this Zoom meeting. So this is my scenario. Let me first show you how it works, and then I will explain you how the Power Automate flow has been done. Okay, so if I click here, I have a flow section from here. I have a list of Power Automate, okay, of Power Automate flows linked to the event table having when a row is selected as trigger. So if you want to display or you want to run a flow from a table, okay, in Dynamics 365, you can just use when a row is selected a trigger. So the important flow in this scenario is get registrant list. So if I run this flow, that flow should use my connector to connect, okay, in Zoom and retrieve all the registrant to the Zoom meeting. So let us run it. This is the Power Automate iframe, which is open. And from here, I will be able to run my flow. Is connecting, then I click run flow, done. Okay, so the flow is running in the background. After some seconds, I should be able to retrieve data from it. So let us see, refresh. Okay, so you see I have my three. These are the three persons who have registered to the Zoom meeting under the Zoom registrant tab. Let me now show you how the flow is done. Okay. So the trigger, as I told you, is when a record is selected. Environment is the default, and the table name is the events. First tip, when you use this trigger, never rename, okay, the trigger, because from here you can, okay, it is even locked. It is even locked. But even though it is not locked, never rename it, okay? It can bring issues in the flow execution. I tell you that by experience. Okay, now this is my action, the action of my custom connector, get registration list. Okay, the Zoom API documentation tell me that if I want to get the registrant to a Zoom meeting, I need to pass the meeting ID. So this is the meeting ID passed. This is simply an object variable to store the body retrieved. Okay, this is an array. Okay, this is an array. Now, this body has an array. Okay, contains an array of registrant that contains different, okay, objects, and each object represents a registrant with his information. I need to retrieve that registrant array that contains important information. That is why I have used this variable to retrieve it. Now, this is just another array variable declared. Okay, this is the pass JSON action. Pass JSON is important to teach the system to recognize the data. okay, if you need to select data and so on, you first need to pass it. So the content I should pass is my variable, and the system needs the schema in order to know which is who in my data. And to easily get the schema, you can run the flow. Okay, another tip, when you want to use this trigger, when building your flow, don't use it directly because you will have issues to easily test the flow. You can use manually run a flow, a trigger rather, at the place of this. Once you run the flow, you build the flow, you can now replace it with your trigger easily. So when you run the flow, you will retrieve, okay, sample data from this step okay. You will copy the array of registrant and click on generate from sample and paste it here, and then you will click done, and the system will generate the schema. If you have some required options at the end and you don't need it, you can easily remove it. After that, I need to select. Once you pass data, you can now select it because the system knows the data correctly. So I pass the body of the pass JSON array zoom. I select the first name, okay. If equal item string null item first name. Okay, now because when I run the flow, I get null into, okay, the quotation. I don't want it to be like that. That is why I use this simple if formula to replace. If it is a string null, I want it to be null, just null, without the quote. So now I do the same for the last name and for the email, okay? So I just compose the result of the previous action. I use the union function here. This is to remove duplicates data, because I have noticed that sometimes when I collect data from Zoom API, I have duplicate inside. So to remove duplicate, you can use union and you pass the variable contain your data as the two parameters, the same variable, two parameters of the union, and it will remove all the duplicate, okay? So I now compose the variable list row from Zoom meeting register. Why do I list the row? You know, you have several users using the same system and they can run the flow as they want. It's up to them. They can run it. So now to avoid having duplicate records here, I first need to get the content, okay, of this Zoom registrant table and compare it with my registrant array retrieved from Zoom and know those who are not yet there in order to store them. If they are already there, I should not store it. Otherwise, I will have duplicate here and it is not good for the client. So that is why I need to retrieve the content of Zoom meeting registrant. Okay. And now show advanced option. You see I can filter. It's always good to filter to make your flow run rapidly and to avoid useless data. So run meeting ID equal, okay, so this is a no data filter, meeting ID. So I need to select data related to the meeting ID. I can now compose. I just compose the result of the previous action. Now I can easily pass, okay, I can pass my data. So from here you can see the content. I now pass, okay. You can do the as I told you before, you run it and then you will be able to pass the sample data from here and it will generate the schema. And if you don't want the required field here, you can remove. I can now select, okay, I pass the body and I can select, okay, you see, the mapping is exactly the same, okay, I have selected here. I select the same because I want to easily use the filter data operation. If it is not the same, you will have issues to use the filter. That is why I use the same schema. I pass the same key, mapping key. Okay. So now I store the output of the previous action here in this variable. I compose it. Okay. I compose. Now I can filter. Okay. So var to remove duplicate, array registrant zoom, var to host does not contain item. You see, so I take the content of the array of objects containing the items I want to store here. I take the variable, the object or the array of object containing the items already stored, okay, and I don't want items contained here. Okay, I want to store in I want to insert, okay, just items retrieved from Zoom, okay, that registrant array, okay. I want to filter it and just keep items not yet recorded here, okay. So this is the purpose of this filter. So you know, item is it is related to here is it is like the object, the current object on which we are positioned. So you can use this to in your filter array and then apply to each. You know, I will just enter in the loop with items I must insert. Never enter in a loop and make test to know if you can insert something and so on. Use data operation. Data operation, the execution time is very fast. So most of the time you use data operation as much as you can. And then make sure that you enter in a loop when you are obliged to do it, and you enter into it with only the data you are supposed to insert. So you see body filter array. So I pass the body and I can add my rows. Okay, table name is Zoom meeting register. This is the last name. Then this is the email. Okay, basically it is item, email, item, last name, and so on. Item is the current item in the body, from the body. Now I pass the meeting ID. Okay, something very important, and I think I will explain you that in the next video. How to refer or to reference a lookup in a flow. You can wonder how I've been able to know that I should enter MSNFP events and pass the unique event ID from here. I will explain you that in the next video. That on the next video is a promise. So from here, Zoom meeting registrant. So this is the record ID. Okay, you can use the GUID function to auto-generate an ID for your record. So we are done with this flow, and see you next time for the next video. As I told you, I will explain you how to reference a lookup in a flow. Many thanks for watching, and have a wonderful and nice day.